Okay, so I decided to do my project on the COVID-19 statistics versus the factors involving children and schools. So basically what I did was try to think of things revolving around children that may have an effect on these coronavirus statistics, such as transmission rates and overall number of cases. Because while we don't know a lot about the novel coronavirus, we do know that it is very contagious and very easy to transmit between people. And we also know that while children can be affected, the same as any other age, they are more likely to be asymptomatic, so that they may not know that they have it, and it may be easier for them to transmit it to their parents because they don't know. First of all, they're children, so they don't know that they should be social distancing, and secondly, they may not know that they have it, so they're maybe not following the rules as closely as they should, or their parents aren't having them follow the rules as closely as they should. So first, I looked at the children per household percentage in each state, the average, and compared that to the total number of coronavirus cases. So you can see right here, I have this map. The colors in the background represent the number of coronavirus cases in that state. So you can see we have some hot spots here. Washington, California, obviously New York, Pennsylvania. And then I've also created these shapes in the middle of each state that represent the percentage of children, or the percentage of people in each household that are under the age of 18. So legally children. Those circles are representative of that by size and also by color. So the darker circles, the larger circles, represent a higher number of percentage children in the household. So for each household, 30% of the people living there are children, or if you go to a state like Maine, only 18.7% are children. And we can see a little bit of correlation here between these lighter colored states, which is less coronavirus cases, and these smaller circles, which is less children per household. There are some instances like Maine, New Hampshire, and Vermont where that is significant, but you can also scroll over here to the Midwest and see that it's also not significant in many of these places. And based on these factors, I've decided that children per household compared to the total number of coronavirus cases is probably not a significant statistic, although it was very interesting to research. So next, I decided to compare the dates that states mandated that schools be closed, because schools contain a large amount of closely populated children, and this disease is very transmittable. So when all of those children are in one small place together, it tends to be transmitted more easily, and then they take it home to their parents, to their grandparents, and therefore a lot more people are at risk of becoming infected. So on this map, I used color to indicate the day that schools were mandated to be closed by that state. So and this is all based relatively to each other. So for example, dark green states such as Kentucky, Ohio, and Tennessee mandated that their schools closed relatively early, around March 12th or 13th or so. And then these red states like Texas and Colorado were relatively later, a week or more later than some of those other states. And then I also used the circles in this case to represent the number of cases per capita. So I didn't use total cases in this situation because some states like New York have extremely large populations. Texas, California have extremely large populations. So a good example of that would be that California has an extremely high number of cases, but they are a very large state with a very high population. And their cases per capita are actually low comparatively to some of these other states, even though they have more total cases. So in this case, we can see that there actually seems to be some sort of correlation. You can see that these green states have smaller circles, meaning that they closed their schools earlier, and they also have less cases per capita. A lot of these darker green states all have small circles, other than Ohio, Indiana, and Tennessee, and a little bit Virginia. But for the most part, these green states have smaller circles. And you can also see that a lot of the darker red states have much larger circles. So they refuse to close their schools as early as they maybe should have, and that may have resulted in them experiencing a higher number of cases per capita. So I think that this seems at least a little bit significant. It's definitely worth looking into, and obviously this could change over time. Some of these states didn't even, like for example, Nebraska didn't even close until April 2nd. So that was not that long ago, and the incubation period of this virus is actually at least 2 weeks, and so we won't know for a while whether all of this data is accurate or usable, but I think that it is a pretty good indicator, even though closing schools may also coincide with closing businesses, closing other churches, other places of congregation. So while schools may not be the main factor here, they are a part of the larger picture. So, thank you.